First question is, how do you see the state budget and priorities in the future? Ms. Casillas.
How do I see the state budget and the priorities in the future? The first thing I look at is our children. Now that the teachers have gotten their raises, we need to make sure that there is accountability for those teachers, and that money is spent wisely. If our teachers are not able to teach the technology to our kids nowadays, then we need to educate those teachers. We need to put the money back into those teachers. But we need to be they need to be accountable. They need to be able to teach. Our children need to be in schools that are not C&D rated schools. Our children need to have the education that they can vie for jobs in the outside world. And to me, that is the priority, is our education process, and then it builds out from there. So that is what I would look at, other than public safety. That would be one of the first things, is the education that I would look at in the budget process. Thank you.
Next up for Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. And I want to thank everybody real quick for being here tonight. You know, I know I don't have my tie, I don't have my jacket on and stuff, but I wouldn't miss this. I enjoyed this so much 2 years ago that I just flew back in late last night because I didn't want to miss the opportunity to see you all here tonight. So with that being said, for my first term, for those that you don't know, I was elected last term for my first time as a freshman, and my seatmates are Representative Schob, who's Speaker Pro Tem, and Senator Frank Pratt, whose seat that I filled the vacancy on. You know, the budget was a real eye-opener. So what I did is I went to your Pinal County supervisors and I asked them, what is the #1 ask for Pinal County? And the fact was that Pinal County citizens were paying taxes in the lottery fund money, and that money was not being returned back to Pinal County. And so the first year that I was there, we got that money back to you all and the citizens of this county. The second thing on the budget is that we have to return the taxes that you're paying back to the causes in which you're paying them for, which is like HERF. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. I believe that budgets, like in my household, shows where our priorities are. So in Arizona, I see the future of our budgets being towards education. It's the critical issue right now on the table. Our children's schools are not being funded, and that is affecting our future, and that is affecting our ability to grow economically. So I think if we fund that, and also a state's budget is to take care of the state's citizens. So whenever the middle class is being squeezed, that budget needs to be put into programs that relieve that squeeze on the middle class. So thanks again for everyone coming here, and hope to talk to you more.
Hi, I want to thank everyone for being here. I come from Globe, where we had a private prison try to move into our community in 2011 and would stop it. So I have a unique perspective on this. And I think when we as a state are spending money on private prisons, and they are the largest growth industry in our state right now, at the expense of our public education. We are spending 3 times the amount of money on warehousing prisoners than we are on educating our kids. And that is a choice that we make as a state, and I think that we can pull back on that and reinvest in public education and the future of our children instead of warehousing people. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome everybody, and happy you all to come out tonight. It's definitely much better to do this inside than outside, that's for sure. Budget for the next couple of years down the road, we kind of look at things in a 3-year cycle. Here in Arizona, when we do budgeting, we'll only budget 1 year out. I do believe and continue to believe that obviously K-12 will be the focal point. It constitutes roughly half of the entire state budget as it is now. We will look into further investments, especially into the community college system, as well as most likely into our university system as well. And the other thing that is definitely big to come up on And one thing that we actually did make a significant dent this past year was infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. I believe that will continue to be a major issue going forward, and something that all of us here in this room, especially that live in Casa Grande and may work in the metro area, look at very, very closely and hope that we do something soon.
Moving on to the Senate candidates with Ms. Jerome.
I'm so excited. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I think you hear a theme about education in the budget, and the number one thing that government does is serve the people. It's not a business, it's a service. And so we need to focus on serving the people. By serving the people, by educating our youth so they can become citizens for the future. We need to focus on our community college and college systems, and definitely we made a good start with the focus on education, but we need to expand that with a lot more money. And the other thing that's very important is healthcare. We need to make sure that we include everyone, that everyone has the healthcare that they need. We need to look at programs that will cover everybody, that no one should be without healthcare, as well as looking into the kids care program. No child should be without health insurance. So education, helping the public and the children are very important. Infrastructure as well is super important, and that is another priority. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. We did hear it mentioned, and it is true, that Arizona does give a very large percentage of our budget to education. So part of the problem actually is that our budget is too small. We are trying to do a lot for a lot of people on a very small budget. So that's one of the first things that needs to be addressed, is increasing our revenue as a state. Now, if we do give that large of a percentage to the state for education, now we're talking. Education has to be priority number one. I speak as an Arizona native and as a former public school educator within the district. I've experienced firsthand the shortcomings of what it means to underfund our public schools. I've taught in classes that are overcrowded, and our per pupil spending is at the bottom. We are showing what we value by our budget, and absolutely the future of Arizona is our public education system.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. On our budget this year, we were very effective on a lot of issues. We have included a lot of things that were very important in the baseline. That means they will be there next year. That will mean we will have dedicated funding for public safety. We will have a 5% increase on the teacher salaries. We are going to have some money that's going to be dedicated to the match on the Medicaid people. So all of those things were very effective. A lot of help for Pinal County was very effective. Some of the things that were going to be problems in next year's budget is going to be, we're having a real crisis in our public safety, our DPS officers. We're losing them.
Time.
Okay. All right.
But Frank, you can just stay there because we'll start back the other way on the next
All right.
question. Second question is, do you favor any tax changes?
No major changes. There will not be any major tax changes in the next year. We did some adjustments this year. We got some dedicated funding, like I said, for DPS. It was very effective. It helped with the budget and actually gave us some funding that actually gave us the ability to give the teachers the raise this year. But I do not expect a whole lot of changes in the next year, next cycle.
Okay. Ms. Fierro-Scott.
In my previous answer, I brought up increasing revenue, and I do believe that that comes through changing some of the taxes that we currently have. I think that our corporations are receiving too many large tax breaks, while the middle class continues to shoulder the burden. So I believe in re-examining those corporate tax loopholes, those tax credits, and seeing where we are benefiting as a state and where we are losing. And if we are on the losing end of those tax breaks, I think it's time to change them. Secondly, I also support the Invest in Ed movement that is currently happening. I think that a dedicated revenue stream is the only thing that will really secure the budget for public education.
Thank you.
I think it's been too long that the middle class is paying more of their fair share. And as Natalie said, we need to approve the Invest in Ed, and so the people in the upper brackets will pay their fair share, so we have a revenue stream. But that's just, again, the beginning. The other thing is that we may want to look at a change in the gas tax, which hasn't been changed in a very long time, which may bring in some more revenue. And then we also need to make sure that the people that can afford it the most are paying their fair share and not giving them the tax breaks. We do have to look into the corporate tax breaks and the loopholes. We have to close those. Ducey laid off hundreds of auditors, and those auditors lost about $87 million. So we need to look at getting that money back, which will be dedicated and which will serve education and serve the state. Thank you.
In short, probably the most significant change I think that is going to be a conversation over the next maybe even year or two is something that got started this past session, which was definitions of what constitute digital goods and services. The Supreme Court obviously had a court case that was released last week or 2 weeks ago, allowing for those taxation of those goods and services for entities that don't have a physical presence in a state. The South Dakota case, Arizona's probably going to have to look into, at the very least, defining what these goods and services are and how they can be applicable to the tax code, whether they can or cannot. I would also mention that if it does constitute an increase in revenue on the tax side, it would require a 2/3 vote just based on Arizona's constitution to do so. But that is something I think is going to be very, very interesting to see as we move into a truly digital world.
This could be a longer subject, but I'm going to talk about small business tax incentives. I'm someone that comes from a small rural community, and I believe in raising the minimum wage. I know that that is a hardship on small businesses. I've talked to several in my community. So I think while we try to raise the minimum wage for small business in small communities, we have to offset that by helping small business with tax incentives so that they can continue to grow and thrive. I think one of the things that we've done is we put a lot of our focus on incentivizing corporations and hoping that their profits trickle down to us. And I think when you look at profits trickling down to communities, it really starts with small business. So I would look at tax incentives to help small business while raising the minimum wage so that we float everyone's boat upward. Thank you.
So I think we do need to increase revenue here in Arizona. I think Natalie mentioned earlier about the size of the pie that we have here. So when we talk about school budgets, 50% or more than 50% of our state budget goes to schools of a pie that's this big. We need to increase that pie. The way we do that is with a fine-tooth comb going through the tax loopholes that are not beneficial to citizens. So what that means is if we're not getting anything out of these companies, if they're not providing the jobs that we need, if it's not sustainable, then we need to close some of those tax loopholes to help increase our revenue. Because as we know, it's not proven that businesses run out of state when you close some of these loopholes. This Walmart down the street is not going to close because they're not getting their $1 million tax cut. But we know who leads the state is our teachers, and they're teaching our children and our grandchildren. So instead of running working class teachers out of the state, we need to start increasing the revenue. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to put a little different spin about what the tax code is. We had a little discussion with our own party and the majority this session about, we do tax reform every year, right? So the feds, they do tax stuff, they pass federal laws. The state comes in, and then what we do is we do some reform, tax reform, to match what the feds do at the federal level. That affects all of the citizens, right? And so this year we had the debate about doing some reform and really some tax cuts. And we decided that it's the best for the state of Arizona to hold off on that until the true numbers are, because even though our money is generated $250 million more in the first quarter of this year, Arizona has some money and everything looks good. We want to make sure that we're on solid ground, because one bad bill, one bad tax decision can make a $100 million deficit to our budget next year if we make a mistake. So the people that are in charge today, which I'm one of them, and there's two other fellows up here are, we are making cautious decisions for all of you in Arizona. Thank you.
Who invented heels? I think they said it was a man. Anyway, I have a little bit different take on that. I do support InvestNet because I do believe that we have to pay our teachers. We have very educated, talented teachers that are leaving Arizona to go elsewhere because of higher pay. But when it's really difficult for me, I've looked at the budget and tried to figure out, this and that, and all the numbers start running together. And I believe that unless you're really in there and you really can hear everybody's side and put everything together, that it's really difficult to say that we want to increase taxes here, we want to close the loopholes, which of course that's what we need to do. But unless I know what's on the inside, can I really stand up here and say that this is what I'm going to do? But what I would like to see happen is that there's money for our public service officers to be safe out in their communities.
For the third question, let's start with Mr. Cook, and then we'll come back this way and loop around to Ms. Casillas. And the question is, what comments do you have about any of the ballot propositions?
Well, if you want to talk about a certain ballot proposition, there's some of them that I am for and some of them that I am not for. You've heard a couple of them in here, and I don't want to give them any free press. So I'm going to use the rest of my minute is to go back to this. There's one thing in Pinal County that affects you all in the agriculture business, back on the taxes, is that they pay tax on fertilizer, your farmers do. And that is part of the food processing that your county does here. And that's one of the things about the tax code I would like to get straightened out. Because your farmers here are suffering, and they've gone to the tax court, and they've tried to fix this problem, but it's based on what that definition is. So that's one thing I want to add to that. Am I up?
A few more seconds.
So what scares me is just like the 20 for 20 plan that I was 100% behind, and I would think that I was one of the great people that, we said we need to do this. Because when things go on the ballot, it ties the hands of the legislature. So be careful on what you vote for. Thank you.
So I would love to answer that question. I personally don't support Proposition 305, I'm voting no on 305, because we should not be giving tax cuts to folks that can afford private schools already. The $5, the money that's coming away from publicly funded schools is not going to be tracked and it's not going to be regulated the same way that it would be in public schools. So I definitely voting no on 305. So thank you.
This is a really easy one for me because I think there's one ballot measure that would change politics as it is, both for both sides of the aisle, and that is outlawing dark money. Arizona is the state for dark money. We have over $10 million have come into our political system, which means that what is being talked about out there is special interest voices and not voters' voices. So let's get dark money out of our process by at least requiring people to be transparent about it, and then let's let the voters decide.
Right, as Mr. Cook mentioned it a second ago, as a general rule, I generally do not support propositions that are on the ballot. They tie the hands of every future legislator. The people that you sent to Phoenix have their hands tied by these things. And by the way, because of the Voter Protection Act, they're never able to be changed afterwards. So if there's a minor flaw that a legislature passes a bill, is able to go in the following year and maybe fix something, all it takes is a simple majority in both houses and a signature from the governor. On a proposition, I tell folks often, if you have even just one minor hiccup with one, the best thing is to vote no, because that minor hiccup will be in the Constitution forever. And that is something not to be taken lightly. So that is probably the biggest advice I could give on that.
So I'm thinking of some 4 ballot propositions that are on the top of my list. And number 1 was the 305, that no public money or property tax money, your money should not go to fund private education. So definitely no on 305. That is very important. The second one is outlaw dirty money. I can't say it more enough that accountability and transparency needs to be the hallmark of government everywhere. So we need to have accountability and transparency with money. So definitely outlaw dirty money. Definitely the invest in ed. It's again returning some of that money by taxing the people that can afford it the most. And the clean energy one as well. We need to be the solar capital of the United States, if not the world. And so that is very, very important as well.
So I feel like what motivates a proposition and motivates people to get out and get all the signatures required for a proposition is feeling like their views and their needs are not being met by their representatives. And so I think that you can see by the number of propositions that we have going forward on the ballot that people do not feel represented right now. They don't feel heard. And so I absolutely am proud and happy to give these propositions some free press. So I'm going to say vote no on Prop 305 because, like my colleagues have said, it is draining public funds from an already underfunded public education system. I would say that I support transparency and accountability and support that dirty money initiative because it is crippling our democracy right now. It is silencing those who need the voice the most, and it is giving power to people who already have the power.
There is one proposition that is on on the ballot this year that I hope everyone will support. We've spent a lot of work and time putting together some reforms on the EORP and the Corp pension plans. I would urge you to vote yes for that one particular thing. I think that we need that change in the retirement program, and I would urge your support for that. And I hope that everyone will take a real good look at that one and support it on the proposition on the ballot this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last but not least, back over to Ms. Casillas on the same question.
Thank you very much. As education is my top priority, I vote no on 305 because I feel that there will not be accountability to the public, to the voters, if that passes. So I vote no on 305. But I do have to give credit to our sitting representatives and senator right now because I know one time I tried to work on a proposition, and the time it takes and the energy it takes to put into that and to put in the proper wording is extremely difficult because, as they say, it does tie your hands when you're getting ready, if it passes and it's not the right thing for everyone, because everyone has to be able to gain from that and not lose. So no on 305, and thank you very much.
We will proceed with closing statements, and we'll start with Ms. Fierro-Spahn and go down the other way.
Again, I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here. I think it is so incredibly important, particularly in this election cycle, to know who you're voting for and what they stand for. So I'm just going to let you know that, again, my name is Natalie Fierro-Spahn. I am a fourth-generation Native. I am proud to live in this state and call it home. I'm a product of the public education system. I taught fourth grade and middle school drama in the Florence Unified School District. I'm raising 3 little girls here, and my husband is also an educator. So I am working to fix public education in this state. I'm working to help the middle class to be a voice for the people, and I'm asking you to get involved and make a change in your own backyard, because that's the only way we're going to have true representation. So I applaud you for being here and getting involved and taking the time to hear what each of us stand for. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I'm tired of blowing the mic. But it's working. We are at a crossroads in Arizona. We have to make some changes because we are, I think, going in the wrong direction. People aren't being heard. The benefits are not going down to our children and our families who need it the most. We have 25%, or 1 out of 4 of our children are living in poverty, and there's quite a bit of poverty here in Pinell County. We need to take care of our own, and there it goes again with accountability and transparency. But again, we need to prioritize what is important for everyone. Again, government is a service, and it is to make your lives better and have you succeed your dreams and your goals. And that cannot happen with a good educational system. Public education for all is the hallmark of our society. We have been proud in this country, and we need to, again, make it great in our state. Healthcare is very important, and we need to work and make sure that no one goes without medical care, that we can see a doctor and a provider whenever we need it. We had a hospital recently close in our county, and we need to prepare for the future because I believe we are going in the wrong direction. I practiced medicine for 30 years, And I know it's like, because I worked in rural areas and emergency departments, and I'm going to be a strong voice. I've always worked with other people to reach out to find
Time.
solutions, and thank you very much. I'm happy to be a rep. Thank you.
I think Sharon and I finally figured out how to do that. Folks, there's almost never been a better time to be in Arizona. Wages are up, jobs are coming to Arizona, companies are moving in. A lot of it because of the tax policies that we do have in this state, of course. And things are getting better by the day. We have had, I believe it's 11 consecutive months of increases in revenue without raising taxes to the state above our projected forecast. Many of those months, double digit above projected forecast. We are doing amazing things in Arizona, and that's the reason that I'm running for re-election, because I want to go ahead and continue setting Arizona and making sure that it keeps this current trajectory that is making people take notice. This Congressional Budget Office estimates that Arizona will see economic growth in the neighborhood of 7.2% this coming year, and for the foreseeable future. We project our own growth a little bit more conservatively at about 4.2%, but the reality is people across the country are taking notice, and they are moving here. And even the fly loves it, I tell you. But the people really are. And so when we're listening to folks who are running for office and talk about the doom and gloom of this state, let's take a moment and step back and see where we were in 2008, 2009, and 2010, and see where we are today. Because it is a stark difference. It has been amazing improvement. And I have never been more excited about the future of this state that has been my home my entire life. So thank you very much. I hope to earn your support for another term.
Thank you all for having me. I'm just going to follow up on that real quick. Since 2008, our public education has shot to the bottom at 48. So I think we do have a lot of work in this state. This next election is going to be a referendum on a lot of things, but I think it's about values, and I think it's about where we choose to invest our money. So I'm just going to talk to you about one thing which is near and dear to my heart, which I think is a direct comparison. Right now, the state of Arizona has the largest private prison industrial complex in the United States. In the last 10 years, it has increased by 100%. And like I said when I began, we are spending 3 times the amount on warehousing prisoners than we are on educating our children. That's a choice that we make, and we don't have to make it. We are making private prisons a growth industry in Arizona, and I think that we can choose to make public education and the future of our children the growth industry that we all really want for our future. So I look forward to being in the legislature and working and being a strong voice for changing how we incentivize our investment from private prisons to public education. Thank you.
Once again, thank you to everybody that showed up tonight. Thank you for spending your evening with us. I grew up here in Casa Grande. So I know a lot of you, a lot of teachers, a lot of educators here that I grew up with in the school system. I served 5 years in the Marine Corps, right out of high school, 17 years old, learned a lot, grew a lot. Came back to my hometown to raise a family. I have 2 little girls, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, actually turning 5 on the first day of kindergarten. So that brings back to some of the messages that have been put out here today, that the country has taken notice. I was sitting at work at the warehouse. I worked down at the Walmart. I was sitting at work the other day with CNN on, and I see Red for Ed, a huge walkout going on. The country has taken notice. They've seen how little we treat our professionals with respect. So I'm running to fight for those working class teachers, because that's what teachers are. It's a working class profession, and all the other working class here in the district. Being middle class is not just middle income. Middle class is looking down on my daughters and seeing them coming into the into the educational system, and looking up at my mother who's looking to retire and she's not sure if she can. We're right there, right in the middle. So we're working for all those folks. We're working for the retirees, for the working class, and for the children most of all, because they're going to take care of us when we want to, take some time off and relax. So thanks again for everyone for being here, and I'm happy to talk to you after. I'd love to connect with each and every one of you if that's possible. So thanks again.
You know, 2 years ago, I got up here and I introduced myself as a rancher, and I said there's 60 seats down there, and one agriculture representative needs to be at the state capitol. Well, today I'm happy to say that we have 3, right? Because I stood up here at this microphone and I said, I'm going to do everything that I said I'm going to do, and I've done it. In fact, I've exceeded what I said I would be up there and do. So I want to go back to Casa Grande. I believe I have an excellent working relationship with your mayor and town council of this city. And when Sam's Club closed, I'm going to tie this into water. I've just received word tonight that I'm one of 4 legislators that have been put on the steering committee of the governor's office this time as we go to address the water needs of the state of Arizona. And what I'm proud to say that I'm on there is because I already talked to Frank and TJ, is that I will talk to them and inform them of what's going on, because Pinal County has got to have water. We have 16 applications pending at DWR right now today. 16 applications. These are jobs, these are homes, these are people moving into your communities to spend money at your businesses and to grow your economy here. That government is in the way. And I'm spearheading that, and that's where I'm trying to spend a lot of our time working with my seatmates here. Now, if you think of that, that's the one reason why Sam's Club closes down. That's the reason why the mall down the highway, the interstate here, closes down, is because the projection of growth for this county hasn't reached that. That's why we had to fix, right, the water credits, right, the extinguishment credits, because the growth hasn't reached what they thought it would be 50 years ago in this county. Those are the things we're working on today. And we made the largest investment the state has ever made in public education K through 12 in this last session. We extended 301. The legislature extended 301 as an investment in education. And we did the 20 by 2020 plan, which we're only halfway done, with the additional assistance money. Those are the things we're safeguarding. So Arizona is on the right track, just like TJ says, and we've got a lot of work to continue. Thank you.
Again, thank you everyone for being here. As I'm listening to everyone giving their final, I really would like for all of you to take into consideration what everyone has to offer. And I will say again, I am a Democratic candidate, but I will say that I know how hard our sitting representatives and senators do work. But what I am saying to you tonight is that there is not a balance in our legislature. And we need a balance. There are a lot of things that are happening and a lot of things that are not happening. And I believe that it takes a woman to get in there to say, hey, wait a minute, these aren't, it's not all about these. We have all the responsibility on our family and kids too. So what I am just saying to you tonight is to keep that in mind, that there needs to be a balance, and I will be the one to make that balance, to make it happen. And just remember this, your vote is your voice. And so I am asking that on August 28th, that you say loud and clear by your vote that you're sending Carmen Casillas into the general to be one of your next state legislators to balance out the House. Thank you.
Thank you again for being here tonight. I would like to echo TJ's comments. They were very spot on, and David, so thank you for my colleagues for their responses. We talked to thousands of people over the course of our sessions, and we hear several different things that we see commonly. Their jobs, their education, and their public safety. Those are the issues that we concern ourselves about very much. We spend most of our time and most of the state's money taking care of those three issues. We also have a lot of issues with rural Arizona. Pinal County, as you know, is now the third largest county in the state, but we still have a lot of small county issues and problems. We have to keep working on those issues. They're very important. We need jobs, we need safety for our people, and we need education, particularly in a lot of the smaller rural schools. And I would be honored to receive your vote this year, and thank you very much.
Let's have a nice round of applause for all the candidates.